No. Hello. Today I will be presenting the topic on the economic consequences of COVID-19. More specifically, I'll be talking about international trade, trends and expectations, and the exchange rate too. So to begin, we must talk about the global GDP growth. And then we're going to analyze the components of the GDP for more in-depth analysis. But to have a first glance, the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, an international organization that is responsible for economic stability and to make sure that there is no poverty in the world, well, not extreme poverty. The IMF forecasted slight improvements to the year 2021 in comparison to 2020. As you can see here, for 2020 we recorded sharp decreases mid-year from 3.3 points of growth to 4.9 in June, in the summer. So it was a very quick recession, but it's also expected to have a V-shaped recovery. As you can see, that it's speculated 5.8 point increase in April 2020. So the pandemic truly showed the drastic effects on consumers and producers both. It showed a historic stop of consumer spending very, very quickly, very rapidly. So to understand why the IMF speculates an increase in the global GDP for next year and how sharp recovery, we're gonna take a look at international trade. So this is a graph representing the monthly exports by country and sector. So these are the leading exporters in the industries, and we can see from far, even though it looks a bit like chaos, that there are many ups and downs, many skyrockets and plummets. So to begin speaking, we're going to talk about China's textile industry. China's textile industry has a comparative advantage to the world. It dominates the market, although in February it recorded a horrible crash from 23.4 to 4.8 billion. However, it recovered very quickly to 29.5. In total, that makes a 26% increase from January pre-COVID times. So it definitely recovered and even surpassed its previous exports. Let's have a deeper look. We're going to talk about the textile industry of China in comparison to its previous highest exported value products, which are the portable computers and the cell phones. Now, in May 2020, China recorded $14 billion worth of textile face masks. It exported more face masks than any other product. This is a few billion more than their best exports. It was 9.9 for the portable computers. Agriculture, however, saw decreases and increases depending on different countries. For example, we can talk about Brazil. Brazil saw a sharp increase, not as sharp, I would say, from 2.35 to 2.65. However, in comparison to China, for example, which decreased to less than 1 billion, Brazil was doing pretty good. Now, this is perhaps due to the soybeans, but we're going to talk about that later. The US also saw a slight decrease in April. However, it recovered by August. China saw it. Now, let's talk about the mineral sector. We're going to talk about the two largest exporters, which are Russia and the United States. They both sharply decreased from January to May. I mean, also in March they decreased sharply from 18.6 and 15.5 to 8.47 and 8.36 respectively. And even during the summer, they did not recover to their previous rhythms. They recovered a bit only. I mean, Russia barely recovered. To begin talking about the monthly exports of chemical products of China and the United States, we see that the United States saw an increase until March, whereas China saw a sharp decrease during its February recession from 10.5 to 5.5, so a significant amount. However, it recovered quite swiftly with a V-shaped recovery the next month. However, it's also important to note that chemical companies in the United States employ 850,000 people, and it's a sector that requires a lot of lab work that cannot be done remotely. So it's a tough industry to keep up with the output from the demand. We're going to talk about the machines. Now we see here that China has a huge had a huge monthly export of machines during January with 73.68, which is more than any other country, even the United States, which is the second largest exporter. However, in February it plummeted to 32.4, which is a horrible number for them for in comparison to their previous month. But they also recovered very quickly. In fact, from February to March, they recorded a 106% increase in output. And no, what happened? Oh, okay. And we still know that's the cars. Yeah. And in the end, by August, they had 24.86% increase in their exports compared to January, which is their pre-COVID recession. Now, when we look at the car industry, it seems that all the largest exporters suffered a blow. They all plummeted. However, when we look at Canada, for example, like this first of all, this can be explained by the distrust in public transportation due to the pandemic. However, in the summertime, the industry recovered back to its previous rhythm, except for Canada, which the car industry increased its output by 3.15%, and that is perhaps because it's cold. It's colder in Canada. People don't buy bikes. However, we saw a sharp increase in bike export during the summer months. So that can be explained for why the car industry didn't go as high. I mean, this is the monthly exports of metals. However, it's of China and Japan. And the United States. However, it's mostly China that suffered a sharp decrease in its February recession. The other months did not really see such a big difference, but they did not export on the same level. However, China did make a full recovery and from 14.7 to 14.8. So it still recorded higher than its previous pre-COVID pandemic era. These are the monthly exports of and imports of the largest exporters, USA, China, and Germany during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it does represent the previous graphs that we've seen. And now we're going to talk about the exchange rate. So, I mean, in 2020, while monetary policies and political shocks did affect the currency rate, the exchange rate, it was also COVID containment that mattered a lot, and we see that especially like from the beginning in March and February when it was beginning to happen, and the safer, the better a country could contain the virus and keep its economies going, and the better it would appreciate against foreign currencies. For example, we see this is a graph of euro and the dollar exchange rate, and we see there's March, exactly in March and February, as soon as the Europe started recording before, it plummeted. However, the United States quickly followed and even contained them less efficiently than Europe. And so we see a sharp increase also in the exchange rate of the euro compared to the dollar. However, in the winter, Europe saw a sharp increase, and so it depreciates very quickly against the dollar. So during the year 2020, the exchange rate depended a lot on COVID containment. To have a better analysis from an economic perspective, we can say that while most markets declined, some others boomed, such as agriculture for Brazil, for example, and the USA. The Brazil can be explained by its like soybeans and also the beef, which both increased sharply in the months of April and May, while other countries saw a very sharp decrease during those months. However, it's mostly China that saw sharp decreases and fascinating recoveries, and even exports, higher exports than previous months. US and European Union saw sharp decreases in output and exports during the March and April. And while some sectors have recovered, others are still recovering, such as the car industry, for example. But only the US saw some increases in production compared to the pre-pandemic era. Thank you for your time. Let's see how much let's go.